So, buongiorno.
Buongiorno.
How are you?
I'm good. We'll speak in English though, because I'm worried if I speak Italian, it will not be so clear maybe.
No, it's okay with English. And how is it in this moment in London?
So, I mean, the first thing to say is that it's been very difficult for many people here because the government we have is very opportunistic and very cynical in many ways. I think what's the most important thing to say about this pandemic is it's really not the same for everyone. The people that are the most vulnerable in society, who for many years have already been treated with concentrated cruelty by this government that we have. For the last 10 years, there's been this program of austerity. It has pushed people to the brink of real destitution unnecessarily, because we're a rich country. And that the pandemic is affecting people far more severely in some parts of society than in others. So that's been difficult to see. There's a lot of suffering around. And you know, it's a moment, like I'm sure for you and for others, it's a moment of great anxiety and quite a complex experience. It's been very strange. But now it's, you know, it's unclear. There isn't the trust in the government because a lot of ministers and powerful consiglieri are going for doing the opposite of what they told us to do. So this is further making it stressful for people who want to trust the government but can't.
Now you are locked in your house, or you can go out?
No, we can go out now. We can go out now as much as we want. But I mean, even at the beginning, it was not so clear. The rules were not super, you know, you're allowed to do 1 hour's exercise a day, but now it's, you can do as many hours you want. You can drive quite far. But yeah, so now we're sort of half on lockdown, half not. But there's no cafes, there's no shops. We're behind Italy.
Okay.
Now in Italy, you can go out to the...
Yes, we can go out and with mostly with the mask.
Yeah.
Keeping a distance of 1 meter.
Yeah, wow.
A security distance. And what's about the theaters?
Well, you know, there's been some interesting articles, even in the French newspapers, about the British situation, because, you know, I work at the National Theatre, and we have 17% of our budget is from the state. So it's a very small part of our budget is subsidy. So the rest of it comes from commercial operations like the restaurants and stuff, private money, but the biggest thing is the box office. So we have a more, I guess, the commercial model exists quite strongly. So a lot of theatres are in real crisis. There's already one that's been shut down, a major theatre in Southampton. There's another one that is on the edge. And there's been, a lot of people are saying that if we don't have a government rescue package, a lot of theatres will run out of money before the end of the year. And so it's a very concerning situation, actually, about what the future is for the theatre. And we don't know when we can come back also. That's the other thing.
You mean that in this moment they are closed, the theaters?
Completely closed. And you know, there's a lot of rumors going around about when we will be able to open, and if we can open, it will be with like social distance, which I don't know what this is, you know, what this looks like. Because in Italy, I guess that's the plan. You're opening now, right? In June?
In June, half June, it seems we can open with 200 people in a closed space. An open air, we can have until 1,000. But it's when it is a big theater, 200 people is not enough to keep it open. I mean, it's complicated. With social distance, masks for the public, for the actors, anyway, keeping a distance.
So it's not really theatre.
Yeah,
Like
it's complicated. It's complicated to think, to understand, to imagine. We are trying to imagine forms that that can be done in this way. We want to open anyway.
Yeah, you must
Want
open.
to have a contact with the public, and these conversations for me is a way to continue to discuss, to have a relationship with our public.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Very
Yeah.
important.
And do you have actors with whom you work generally, or they change all the time?
So it's interesting because, you know, the last few years, the last projects have been kind of the same group, but also they came from the way I started making this work that I've done the last 3 plays. It's a cycle called The Inequalities. You know, love is the middle part, but I'm hoping we can come to Rome. I don't know. Who knows what will happen? Well, one day. That is, those plays, I made them with actors that were my students, some of them, when I was teaching, and well-known actors, but also people that I met from outside the theatre. So I've got this kind of community that is people that are actors and not actors together. And they're from many different sort of backgrounds and approaches. And that's very important for me. And yeah, that's very exciting to bring together people that are from very different outlooks and different, even different languages or different cultures. That's something that I've done a lot of. And I felt I needed it because it puts me in a situation of risk. And I don't know how to do it. There's a problem. And that's very exciting. I don't like safety, you know?
And how can they live in this moment when the theaters are closed and you cannot work?
So the government is paying a little bit of money to the self-employed. So that's the, you know, independent workers. But it's quite a complex system, but there is something. And then also in the Arts Council, the artistic body, they're giving some support. But it's very difficult. I mean, a lot of actors are going to work in supermarkets or, you know, delivery drivers or stuff like this. They're trying to find other ways to keep busy. But it's not so obvious for them. It's already been, you know, theatre in England is weird. It's very extreme. There's a lot of, it's a very successful business, theatre, but equally, and there's a lot of theatre, and it's very healthy in many ways, but also it's very hard. It's very hard to make a living in theatre in England for many people. You know, the average salary of directors, they said last year, was something like £5,000 a year. This was the average. Of course, for some it's much higher, but it's a difficult business, and there's a lot of people doing theatre, which is good.
Listen, you were supposed to come to Rome in October, and I was waiting. We were waiting your show with big interest and desire to see it, and it was love. We wanted to bring it with the festival Romeo, this joint venture. Can you tell something about this trilogy you did?
Of course.
Because you told me also that it has taken a long time to rehearse, to prepare these shows.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so the first part of the trilogy is called Beyond Caring, and it's a story about cleaners, on the temporary cleaners, so people working in the night shifts, very precarious work. And to do this, I did the cleaning myself, and I worked a lot with the cleaners and unions and different people. And the reason it takes so long is because I wanted to have a kind of immersion process, you know, that would bring the theatre work outside of the theatre, and then come back into the theatre with the energy of life and of reality. Sorry, it's the leaves. And that was very long process. Now, love is about families. It's the second part. The first part is work, and the second part is families. And it's about families with young children who are living in emergency accommodation. So that's kind of temporary hostels for homeless people. And in England, this is a big problem. There's a lot of families that are made homeless because the housing price is going up. And and so I researched this by spending a very long time working with mothers and their children who were living in this kind of situation. And we brought them into the rehearsals to work with the actors. Some people even joined the cast, one woman. So yeah, so it takes a very long time. And the final part is called Faith, Hope and Charity. That, you know, normally we're presenting the trilogy in Paris in the autumn. I don't know if it's happening. I don't even know if we're doing Rome, if you've cancelled or not. It's not, nobody told me, you know? So I think everybody's waiting to see what's happening. But anyway, the final part is called Faith, Hope and Charity. And it's about a community center that's people coming together to eat together, a soup kitchen, where there's a choir and there's music. But I guess what brings all these three plays together is they're about intimacy in the world of austerity, of political pressure. But they're not political plays. They're plays about intimate life and the experience of this political situation, not about the ideas. They're about the humans, people.
Yes. Okay. How do you write the text?
Yeah. Well, I write a lot on my own first for a long period. And then I have a kind of sketch of the play. And often what I need the actors. So when I know who the actors are, it changes a lot. So I have, for example, if I'm writing something for you, I will speak with you a lot and slowly create a character collaboratively with you. And then I'll write the script. But there's also a process of improvisation. So we'll do a reading, and then we'll improvise it again, then come back and forth. There's kind of a ping pong between me and the actors. But this changes for each project, you know. For the last play, it was much more traditional. I just did the script and then some actors came later. But I like to involve people from early on in the process, the designers, everybody, for it to be one big sort of adventure together. That's quite important for me.
So let's say when you were with the cleaners, there were actors with you also.
Yeah. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but a lot of the time, I mean, the best experience was when we did the performance. Actually in Chicago, I did a version of the play in Chicago, and we brought many workers into the rehearsal who took over the rehearsal. And you know, you need to use the conditions of theatre, which are exercises, imagination, collaboration. You need to use these tools to find ways of bringing people together that are not normally together. And that's very important for me, that theatre is an instrument for living. It's not just to make something, it's to live more deeply, actually, to be more alive. So yeah, so we brought people in and they took over, and you know, you can talk with someone through theatre in a way you can't talk in normal life like this, you know. If we do an improvisation together or we make some work together, you and me will know each other much more deeply.
Yeah, I know that.
You know that, yeah.
And I like that very much. But tell me, so you start writing, for instance, you start writing when you start to be involved, and then you understand.
Normally I have a long time before. Like, it depends, you know. I mean, for my new project, for example, well, let's not talk about my new project, let's talk about the last one. For the last one, I had many beginnings on my own, completely no actors. And I go quite far, and then I brought people in. But so when they come, I already have quite a big part of it, but it can't be finished. It needs to be really half finished, and the actors are essential. So the earlier works, I would write more in the room or the evening. But the last few, the last one in particular, it's been a lot more that I would do a lot on my own, as it were, more personal and more isolated first, you know.
So, for instance, in lab, you start writing, then you have started to meet people in the situation, in this foyer, these places, and then the actors came. So it's like
then the actors come, and then we go back into the situations with the people, and everything's mixed together. Exactly.
So it's like fase uno, writing, people, research, actors, and then mix everything together. And the actors improvise, and then they find new bits of script that they kind of make in the room, and I write something inspired by this. Or it's, when I'm in the rehearsal, everything is possible and there are no rules, you know. I have to be just a writer, just a director, completely devising. It's all mixed up for me.
Yeah, I understand.
But this phase of work, of writing, is absolutely essential and becoming more and more important for me, actually.
So you bring actors to absorb in some way the world you are going in, you are exploring.
I bring them in, but what's essential for me, and
Yeah.
it's really clear with Love, for example, that each character needs to be created enough from something sometimes very private. So for example, the couple, Barbara and Colin, the older couple in my play, it's a mother who's incontinent, so she's, you know, she can't hold herself from going to the toilet, and her son who's 50, and they've never left each other. This was based on a couple that lived near my mother when I was growing up, that my mother told me about, and I remembered them. But then I met the actors, and they added so much from their life. And, you know, very long conversations and situations they would tell me that we would improvise. And, you know, what I need is, I need to write on someone.
Yeah.
I need to feel like it's, I lose control of it. I love this thing that people, Del Bono says, that he goes in the play, so he loses the idea of the play. I don't go in the play, but in some way I need to lose it. I need to give it away. I don't want to control everything at this phase. You know what I mean? During this middle phase.
Yeah, absolutely. So in a way, the actors bring a big part of themselves inside.
Yeah, but never in a sort of immediate way. I'm not asking them about their private life. I'm more interested to understand what their artistic personality is, not their private personality.
Yeah.
And how I can. I learned this, you know, from working when I was Peter Brooks and Marie-Hélène Estienne's assistant. Marie-Hélène Estienne would meet people and immediately bring them and say, you can do just this, but not everything else. You can do this thing very beautifully. So they would see something in people that was not obvious. And I guess it also comes from my background a little bit in teaching. I used to teach a little bit drama and to people that were not actors, you know, amateurs. And what you get from this is you realize everyone can be an actor. Everyone can express themselves. So it comes back to what I was saying to you earlier. I think theatre is a way to live more powerfully. And you use theatre to help these actors, or hopefully together, create with me, collaborative, we find a way of saying something or doing something.
So, and you were telling me something about the situation in England, and can you tell me more about this situation of rich and poor? And
yeah, well, I'll try. I mean, I think that the main thing is that the last 10 years, this is what these plays have been about. I didn't think I'm going to make plays about politics. But the last 10 years in England have been really interesting because they've been very ideological. It's been really clear that the government wanted to create a culture that would reinforce class division, which is a big part of our history, you know, in England. And what they did the way they did this was they created austerity, so blaming all the poor people, I guess, people in poverty, for not working, for being lazy, for this, for that. And they created this culture of division and suspicion. But it was done very concretely. I mean, they cut the budget for state help, they cut the housing support, and they deregulated work. So, you know, nobody has enough hours to make a job, nobody has enough housing, and there is no support. So it creates this climate of poverty, you know, and there's been a really, it's been done, the point is that it's been done because of a political idea about, you know, everyone being equal, and we
everyone's circumstances are the same, and it doesn't matter which race you are or which origin, which social background you come from. And this is not the case, you know. You can just see what's happening in the world now, where, you know, what's happening in the United States, but all over the world, with the killing of young black men. This is a Black Lives Matter. It's a very specific problem, and it's something that everybody needs to fight. And that, for me, is a kind of parallel a little bit with the UK, and that what I was talking about the system in the UK, which is that they've brutalized the poor, the government. They've brutalized them through policy, but also through discourse. And so that's the atmosphere that this pandemic is happening in. And it's really bad. And everybody is concerned by this. Everybody has to fight it. Just like everybody, white people have to become allies and have to fight, because it's not enough to just say, I'm not a racist. You have to be active, you know? It's the same thing in some ways.
Yes. You know, when we will be able to go out again, and we will be, everything will start from the, you think it's possible to start in a different way, to think something we had before, in fact, is not necessary, so we can do it in a different way. Also for theater.
Yeah, I mean, I hope, I can only speak very personally, actually, about this, because for me, the first month, I was in great anxiety about the future, about everything being cancelled, and about, you know, about my work, and what is it to do theatre now in this world with all this going on? Who cares about theatre? But I think that what's been quite precious for those of us that have taken this time to pause. And as I said, many people can't pause because they don't have the luxury that I have, the privilege of being able to pause. I found that it's more and more important to focus on what's truly essential. And this kind of simplification of life might give us an attitude to take into our work in the future. That's all I can say. For me, it's obvious that the direction I want to go in is I want to move away from what I've done and the 3 plays that I've done, and move into a different area with a different approach in some ways. Something has to change from this time. I don't know exactly what, but something, some shift, some concentration, you know? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think the same. I still don't know where we can go and how to organize and reach this idea, but I feel there is a possibility to think again how to work and in which conditions, and how to create an ecosystem of culture and of theater. And theater has a big part in it, because that has to do with relationships, it has to do with collectivity immediately. Yeah. And the collectivity is questioned all the time with public and actors, and the relationship between them, being all together in the same place for a moment. And so, and there is something there that has to do deeply with the society. I don't know, what you think?
I feel the same. Actually, I was thinking, you know, in a way, the conditions of the theatre are so special. They are such a gift. This gift of being with others, with strangers, in a kind of listening, collective listening. It's a mirror for what the bigger society is. All the world's a stage, Shakespeare or whatever, you know. But I think people sometimes are shut off from this in the past because we have these telephones, we have films, we have so many things. But it makes me think that the theatre needs to concentrate more every piece of work we make needs to live with this question: what is theatre? Why theatre? Why do we need these conditions to say what we're saying? So, of course, you could say every good theatre work does this anyway. But for those of us that are really deeply committed to this question of making it live, making this question of why we need to be together live, it's a new responsibility, and I don't know how it will manifest, but we have to take it even more seriously, I guess, and love theatre more.
Yes.
Love theatre. That's my message.
We must think that theatre could save the world.
Do you feel that?
No, I want to think that. Do you feel
saved the world for 1 minute for one person?
For 1 hour, for one
1 hour, but even for 1 minute, I know from seeing some performances myself, just, it's funny because the 𝗧𝗹𝗶𝗹𝗵𝗶, I'm doing one of my plays there. They asked me to write a little thing. It will be about the time, the crisis. And what I decided to write about was my childhood, my first time on stage. And I'll tell you the story very quickly. But I was on stage when I was 9 in a school play. And I couldn't learn the lines. It felt like I was being told what to do. But I got on stage, and the girl opposite me was there, and we were in a situation, a bullshit situation. But what happened was I made up the words. And the audience was so bored before. It was just, oh, it's sweet, la. But I broke the performance with her, and she joined, and we improvised. And I still had this feeling of freedom, of rebellion, of pushing, breaking fear. And I think that's possible. Theatre can make us feel less afraid. It can make us feel less alone. And we all feel like there is life inside me. I don't know where, but it's there. You can feel more alive in theatre, I think. But I believe in it very, very deeply because I felt it, And in many cultures, this is really important, theatre. It's, I was in Ethiopia at the beginning of, was it this year? No, last year. I was in Ethiopia, and 30,000 people come together to imagine the birth of Jesus overnight, the whole rituals all night. And everyone knows what to do, how to be spectator and audience at the same time. Spectator and actor at the same time. You're part of the procession, but you're also watching it. So your theatre is active. It brings us into this feeling of being with others in every different way. It's 1,000 different kinds of yes, And that's a miracle. It's very happy theatre. It's a very, for me, it's a miracle, actually.
Yeah. So in a way, you think that the public can have a different relationship, kind of participation in many different ways, but to be involved also in the creation some way.
I think we need to, exactly. I leave the lights on in my shows. I don't use the theatre lights. I use all the lights together. And that's only because I don't want to lie at the moment in these performances. I didn't want to lie. I wanted to say, look, we're all in this room together. We're all making this together. Even if you're watching, you can't just, something I don't like when I go to the theatre and the lights go off and you can relax and it's comfortable and you watch it there and the curtain closes. I mean, this was not like this, right? When Ibsen was doing, or Chekhov, when they were opening the curtain, it was like, oh my God, I've never seen this before. But I think today we need a different relationship to architecture and where the audience is. We need a little shock, not habit. We need to break something. You've done this a lot when you've moved audiences and you've changed the relationship to how we look. Yeah. You need something to go, oh, not just be, like, oh,
Yes.
A little shock. Even if it's like a provocation, we need this.
Yeah. To feel that it belongs to them and they are participating.
Yeah.
Completely to something, not just sitting and looking.
I think that it's really interesting because this word, theatre is like the origin is seeing place, you know, theatron. And what does it mean to see? It's active. It's, you know, also it's like kind of religious, like I am seen, you know, I'm revealed. So you want people to be revealed, to be seen. So it's seeing not just like this, but also you're being seen. The audience needs to feel, oh my God, they're looking at me. And I think in all the great theatre forms, doesn't matter what form, even the more, you know, the kind of 19th century or whatever, the more proscenium. Don't you think there's always this moment when the audience has a shock? Arthur calls it the bite of reality, right? I think it doesn't matter how we do it. We need, this is part of the DNA of theatre, is that the audience is revealed. Yeah. I don't care how, you know, it doesn't matter how. It's got to just be done. And if this doesn't happen, it's not really theatre. It's like shit, you know? I think. I don't know.
So, are you in touch with your actors in this time, or even if you don't play?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. We're, you know, I think we're waiting to hear what the tour plan is. So I'm kind of not contacting them too much, because a little bit, some of them, but I'm waiting to hear what we will do, because we had so many big plans, you know, all over the world with these plays, and I don't know what will happen now. So yeah, I'm not so much. I think they're very worried. You know, people are. Some of them have been ill. Some of them have been very worried, and yeah. But I'm looking forward to. Do you think we'll be back in a normal theatre situation this year, or you think it will be more than this year?
I don't know. Right now, I imagine that until December it will be still with some problems. I don't know which ones. Maybe distance. Maybe. But I hope that from January next year we can start again. You know,
well, that's encouraging.
But I don't know. I want to think like that, and programming, I want to think like that.
Yeah.
Then you must always have a plan B, a B plan, to if it doesn't work, if it doesn't. So that's it.
And for your work, do you feel that it will change something for how you work?
Yeah, for sure, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't know how.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have been thinking a lot, of course, in these days when I was at home. I couldn't go out, and could you work when you were at home?
The first month, it was the least creative time in my life, the worst.
As for me,
yeah,
and
I couldn't read.
Yeah.
Now, it's a very beautiful time and it's very good. But I'm working like there is no work, because I was in a strange phase in my life where for 10 years, I was working and, you know, not getting anywhere. And then the last 5 years, a lot of people asking, the last 3 years, a lot of people asking me, do this. And I was getting a little stressed from this, a little lost, because I want to say yes to something, but to really listen to what matters to me. You must have had this situation in your life when, how do you stay true? And you don't, it's such a difficult question to stay with what's essential. And this time, in some way, it gives you a little bit of help for this. So, un aiuto.
Sì, sì.
For this question. And that's, for me, I find myself writing about more personal things, more simple, about childhood, about love, about very basic things. I'm less angry at the moment. I don't know, maybe it's going to change again, but yeah, it was the most difficult time. And now, because in a way, because there is nothing, it's to just exist is quite beautiful, to just feel that you're, and I read some good books, I read what did I read? I read Middlemarch, George Eliot, great book. You know, no theatre. And I watched some great films, you know. So, The Godfather. The Godfather.
Okay.
Apocalypse Now, American films, but also films like, you know, things I hadn't seen. I mean, look, there's the question, I think the most difficult phase is still to come, because if we're still in this uncertainty, we don't know anything about what the future is, about the theatre future, by the end of the year. Like, let's hope you're right, and that in January things go back to normal. But I can't accept that we spend the next 10 years working in social distance theatre. I don't accept that I can't hug someone I don't know when I meet them to say hello, you know, or whatever, you know. Not someone I don't know, but someone I've, you know, a friend or some, not, you know what I'm saying. I think that will become painful, too painful.
Yes. And you have been an actor as well.
Not really. I did a little bit when I was at school. And I acted in my first play, which was an adaptation of 𝗧𝗹𝗶𝗹𝗵𝗶 by 𝗧𝗹. But not so much. I mean, no. But what about you? Did you do acting?
I was acting for a while.
Oh, cool.
I stopped because I needed to be outside and look at the stage, like a spectator, like something. I needed to be outside. I couldn't feel everything being inside. It's good. It's good to participate. It's very good. Another point of view.
Yeah. Yeah.
On stage. But then I decided that I could get that point of view from the actors.
Yeah.
And then I saw that there are two different points of view, and it can be a very interesting exchange outside and inside.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. That there isn't one way of looking.
Yeah.
There is not one. It's not like we know better.
Yeah.
They also see the performance inside, and sometimes they say, "Oh, he's speaking. He's making me look upstage, so he's more important." But sometimes they say very important things also that you learn about theatre, I think.
What's about France? I know that you are working at the Odeon as a guest director.
From next year, I think, I start. Well, I mean, France for me is really, you know, I've been very lucky in my life. I had one thing that happened to me. I was 4 and my parents didn't speak French, but they put me in a French school like this, blop. And so I had to learn French when I was a little boy. And I felt quite confused about what country I was from, because my father was very old, but he had me when he was 55, you know, I was born. And he was Russian Jewish guy, immigrant. My mother was Australian. And I grew up feeling unclear. Am I English? Am I French? What am I? But I was very lucky because I got to be speaking French. And so I've always, you know, I feel very comfortable in France and I want to work there. I will work there a bit more next year, from next year with the Odeon. And the Autumn Festival have been very committed to my work, Marie Colin. But I have a very strong feeling for France and Italy as well. I speak Italian a little bit. And my Italian teacher was the first, she gave me cigarettes, so I yeah.